I wake up and slap D with a song that represents the feelings of many Zambians, which is Bolai Baba, and that's seeing the loss that Zambia experienced yesterday, unfortunately. Coming up next, though, is Voice of the People, where we want to hear from you.
The views expressed on this program are not the views of Power FM or the presenter.
Voice of the People is a dynamic and interactive radio phone-in show that gives listeners a platform to voice their opinions on current affairs, social issues, and community concerns. With engaging discussions, expert insights, real-time audience participation. Voice of the People.
This is Voice of the People right here on the Power Breakfast on Power 91.3 FM. And you can catch us live on Dstv audio channel 914, Gotv audio channel 304, and we are currently live on Dstv channel 92 on Topstar. Now today we are joined in the studio by Senior Counsel Mr. Sakwiba Sikota, the United Liberal Party President, one of Zambia's most respected lawyers and political figures. He's been at the center of national debates on governance, opposition unity, and the rule of law, and remains a strong voice on issues shaping Zambia's democracy. Recently, he's spoken out on OCA's future public accountability and key legal matters in the country that we'll be discussing right here on the show, and the state of governance, opposition politics, and what reforms Zambia needs ahead of the 2026 as we'll be heading to the election next year. Thank you very much, SC, for coming through.
Yes, thank you for having me here.
Indeed. All right. So we have to, of course, kickstart by talking about United Liberal Party as a party president and what you have been working on behind the scenes.
Okay, thank you very much. As you know, United Liberal Party was formed in 2006. It was formed after those very unfortunate sentiments were expressed by the United Party for National Development when in the lead up to the convention after the demise of the late Anderson Mazoka. I think that everybody remembers those very sad and unfortunate statements of it must be a Tonga who takes over from Mazoka. Very, very sad statements, something that should never have been said. And the people who were to gain from such sort of did not say, no, that is wrong, do not say that. And more or less they encouraged it silently by not standing up against it. And you found that the majority of the people in UPND then said, this is wrong. Zambia should be for all people. It should not just be for one section. And so they decided to come away. And it isn't that these were people who had lost positions and so on. You had people like the late Henry Mutonga, who had won to be the chairman of UPND. You had people like Honorable Inonge Wina, who had won her position. You had people like Given Winda, who had won his position as to be the one in charge of media. You had several others, but they all said, no, we cannot be a part of this. We strongly believe that Zambia should be for all people. And that is what should drive anybody who's in government. And since UPND was not showing that, they decided to withdraw. And they formed the party. A lot of people are mistaken thinking I formed the party. No, I didn't form the party. It was others who actually formed it. I was merely invited to come and lead it, and they chose that I be the one to lead it. But in terms of forming it, it was formed by the large group of the UPND members who were totally disgusted with those statements which were being put forward, which we were hoping that the UPND would move away from. It's up to you to judge whether they've moved away from that or not, because I think that one doesn't need to say, one can see. And most people, I think, will be able to tell you what they see. Even you at the back of your mind, I'm sure you can see. So that is how ULP was formed. And like I said, because of those experiences, even the registered motto for the European is Zambia for all. That is the motto, and we strongly believe in that. That is very important in that when you look at what has since happened in our Zambian politics, you have a situation where regionalism, in fact even tribalism, seem to have come to the fore of our Zambian politics. Whether you like it or not, that is very much in the fore. And there's a need for the country to be healed. There's a need for the country to come together. There is a specific need for that. And our motto of Zambia for All in D.O.P, I think, answers to that. And then we found that there were a good number of other people who were of a similar mind, that we should come together and look at what is best for the Zambian people. And that is how UCA was formed. The original idea was that UCA would be registered into a political party. But I think that the government was so afraid of the thought of UCA being registered that they put up all kinds of unnecessary roadblocks towards it. They were clearly terrified of the idea, and they still are terrified of it. And because they're so unsure of themselves, they think the only way to get past it is by being so authoritarian that the registration cannot take place. I don't know whether they've looked at history, because that never works. Like even here in Zambia, the first political party which the Africans tried to register was the Northern Rhodesia African Congress. That was way back, I think, in 1937. Yes. The colonial authorities did not allow for the registration of the Northern Rhodesia African Congress. But the idea behind the Northern Rhodesia African Congress was for the betterment of the indigenous Zambians' lives, equality for the Zambian people, better working conditions, and so on. So, in spite of the fact that they stopped the registration of the Northern Rhodesia African Congress, later on you had Mbikosita Liwanika through the welfare societies, which also, if you look at what the welfare societies were doing, it's the same kind of principles they were trying to put forward as the Northern Rhodesia African Congress, which had been banned. And from the Northern Rhodesia welfare societies then came, in fact, the Northern Rhodesia African National Congress, which was finally formed. Again, if you look at what it was formed for, it was the same things that the banned Northern Rhodesia African Congress, not African National, but African Congress, was banned for. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's not the name which is important, it's the idea. So the colonial authorities may have banned the Northern Rhodesia African Congress, but you can't ban an idea. You cannot ban an idea. That idea will live on. It is not the name which is important, but the idea. So let's hold on to that idea. The idea that all the opposition parties in Zambia must work together, that they must all focus on not themselves and be selfless in terms of putting aside their egos and listening to the Zambian people. Now, UCA, like I said, is three things. It's an idea, it's a demand, and it's a solution. That's what UCA is. Those are the three most important things. Whether you call it UCA or not, what is important is what is the idea, what is the demand, and what is the solution. The idea, like I said, is that Zambia is for all people, for all Zambians, and we must all work together, pool our resources together, that is intellectual resources, capital resources, political resources, and everything, pool them together. That is the idea. And in that way, distill what is the best that we can do for the Zambian people. I said it's a demand, so you're probably wondering, what is the demand? The demand is from the Zambian people. The Zambian people are demanding that us politicians must put aside our egos, must work together, must put all good thoughts into place and identify the right people for the right positions, and also make sure that Zambia is for all, not for any section or any particular type of person, but for all. That Zambia is for all, that everybody must have equal opportunities. That's the demand of the Zambian people.
So then,
I haven't come to the solution yet.
Okay.
I said there were three things. Otherwise, we'll be leaving this sort of half answered. So you have that as the demand, and if you see, it grows and sort of like complements the idea. So the two are married together. So what do the idea and the demand want? They want the solutions for the Zambian people. So part of it is also the solutions. The solutions is that it's going to be putting Zambia in the place it should be on the world map, even here. Putting Zambians in a situation where they're the owners of their own resources, where they are not second-class citizens in their own country, where if there is wealth, that wealth is going to be for their benefit, not the benefit of some foreign powers or some foreign multinationals and so on. We must start having a look at like the new breed of African leaders. If you look at Burkina Faso, you look at Botswana, they've got the right kind of attitude as to what should be done for the Zambian people and for the African people. We should also be going along those lines where we are focusing on enhancing the plight of the Zambian people. That is where we are. And so this metamorphosis of D.O.P into UCA it's like metamorphosis, like I said. You have 4 stages for a butterfly to think. 4 stages of total change. You have seen ULP, UCA, united opposition. It is a continuation and a growth and a renewal and a rebirth into something finer each step of the way. But that idea remains the same. That idea is what is the most important thing, and that is what cannot be killed by either you trying to ban the name, because it's not the name, it's the idea. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, ULP is doing very, very well. UCA is doing very, very well. United Opposition is doing very, very well. It is transforming in the right direction. At the end of the day, the Zambian people are going to have a beautiful butterfly.
Okay. Quite a great analogy. So now taking a turn into recent events, in August 2025, you did make remarks that State House is also public interest, and that's to quote your words. Can you elaborate a little bit more by what you mean when you said that, or rather what you meant when you said that, and how you see the role of State House in public accountability?
Well, when I made that statement, it is when there was a statement regarding the body of the late President Edgar Lungu, where they said, well, that is state property, it's a state thing, so that's why they must do away with whatever the wishes of the family are. I said, well, if that is the case, State House, as you know, is also a national issue. So we should do away with the thoughts of anyone who may say, no, I've got a better house, I don't need to go into State House. You have to go there. You should put aside your own personal thing. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Okay. Now, what do you think should have been done differently with the whole process of the late 60th president?
With regard to the president's issue, I think that first of all, there should have been a genuine interaction with the family. genuine. Right from the word go, there should have been approaches made to the family. One should have been alive to the fact that there was bad blood between the two sides. I mean, you cannot run away from that. There was, and probably there still is. So you had to make sure that you go and find people who would be able to intercede and be accepted as intercessors in that kind of situation to mediate. You do not go and choose people who they themselves have got issues with one side, because that will not help. The other side will immediately, their backs will go up, and that, well, what is this that you're bringing? It's like, for example, let's take what is happening in the world right now. You have this Gaza war which has been taking place, the differences between Hamas and the Israel. What has managed to make it look like they're walking towards some kind of resolution is the fact that you have gotten people to go and talk who are respected by the side that is being talked to.
The intermediates.
Yes. The Qatar, the Egypts talking to Hamas, even the Turkeys and so on. With Israel, the Trump talking to them. I mean, the Israelis, when Trump says something, the Israelis will do it. Netanyahu had refused basically these same terms, which were set up in November last year. He had refused them. And that is because Trump didn't say, no, you must. But this time, all Trump had to say is that, no, you have to. And because it was Trump saying it, they've accepted the very same thing. So it's important who you choose to go and talk. One of the things that, for example, if it had been me who was president, I would have looked at, for example, Archbishop Banda, called him in, talked with him and say, would you be willing to perhaps be an intercessor, knowing fully well that he is somebody who is respected by the other side. Don't go and choose people who have said nasty things about the other side and think that they will be the right people to be intercessors. You know, you could have even gone and gotten even outside mediators. There are various heads of state who are retired heads of states in the region and so on, who know the Zambia and the policy. You could have gone to them. But again, maybe it's because we don't have a very good relationship with most of our neighbors. Maybe that's why that was not done. But that's just an example of who could have been asked to step in. To talk, and talking is the most important thing, and genuinely talking. Unfortunately, you had all kinds of statements being made by officials, sort of like, if you don't take this, we don't care, we'll do it. That's not the way to go about things. You make the other side harden their stance as well.
Actually, you also did comment on the Pretoria court ruling, and you described it as a lose-lose for everyone. But some would beg to argue, saying, well, like they did say, the body of the late president is state property, therefore it's a win for the government, wouldn't it?
It isn't a win for the government. So you would bring the body back. Let's say the ruling is held up. Yes, you'd bring the body back. But what would be the feelings on the ground from the family, from the people who were close to the late? What kind of funeral would you have? I think that the atmosphere would be worse than even the one which was there during the funeral of the late Edith Nawakwi. I'm sure you saw the kind of tensions and everything that were there. This one, certainly, it would be even at a higher level. You'd have a situation where that hurt and burn is carrying on. So that even when in June next year you have the first memorial, all that anger, frustration would come back up again. And this would be in the middle of a high political campaign. June would be at the height of it. So knowing how this government is, they'll think to themselves, no, we can't let these people meet and do that. So we're not going to allow for a memorial. I think you can see how it starts to spiral and everything. So it is a lose-lose. But if it is done in a way where all the parties feel that, okay, then you don't have those tensions anymore.
So then wouldn't you say, as some said, where the government did make efforts to actually engage the family, and at some point there was a truce where the body was expected to be back in Zambia, and then suddenly last minute there's a press briefing and the family saying actually we're pulling back from it, and that's because they said certain agreements were not upheld on Zambia's end, or rather the Zambian government's end, and therefore seeing as since June we've passed through July, August, September, we're now in October, isn't that just causing or making the matter worse and adding more hurt and pain if the family could just concede, seeing as it's bigger than just something personal? Why doesn't
the government just concede? Let's turn it around. Concessions come from both sides. Why can't the government concede?
Because it is a national matter. He's a former president.
But it's also a family matter.
Yes.
He's a personal person to the family.
Yes.
And we have seen that national matters can be put aside, like the State House, living at State House. Mm-hmm. So let's have it even-handed.
But then again,
let's have it even-handed. Apart from it being even-handed, let us have a heart, mm-hmm. and look at the feelings of the people there. Mm-hmm. The best thing is to earnestly sit down and discuss. But sometimes you lose nothing. Look at when we had late Simon Kapwepwe's funeral. At that time, late Simon Kapwepwe and Kaunda were not seeing eye to eye. They had differences, and it was actually stated that no, the family does not want for Dr. Kaunda to preside over the funeral. Mm-hmm. That was a state funeral. Vice President of the country, former Vice President, is a state person. That's why there's even state funerals for them. Kaunda was man enough to say, fine, if that is the wish of the family, I'll pull back. He conceded, he pulled back. He did not preside over it. There was, the funeral went ahead. There was no violence and everything. If Kaunda had taken the stance that, no, it is state property, it is state, I'm going to preside, there would have been chaos in the streets. There would have been total chaos. But he was a man, a big man, and he decided, let me do this for the sake of the country and pull back.
But then wouldn't you say that same courtesy wasn't awarded to him when it comes to his wishes of where he wanted to be buried?
It doesn't mean that if a wrong has been done to you, then it justifies that wrong being done again. It doesn't mean that at all.
So then
a wrong is a wrong. Whether it was done to Kaunda or not, then doesn't make it a right.
So then again, the other sections of society would say, what about the pain that the rest of Zambia is feeling? Because the funeral has been prolonged, mourning has been prolonged, and it's put Zambia in a bad light when it comes to the public stage, because these are the reports that are going out there.
It certainly has put Zambia in a bad light.
So then is there a way that both can concede?
That is what I've been saying. But it would appear that the people you are talking about are looking on concession only from one side. That's what I'm saying, that you need to find common ground. You need to talk. The concessions must come from both sides. Zambia right now is being looked at in very bad light. I can tell you that over this issue of the body. And then to make things worse, to complicate it further, if you saw headlines a couple of weeks ago, it was about, two witch doctors have been for wanting to kill the president. So it's all about dead bodies, witchcraft, whatnot. That is the impression we're giving out there. Certainly not the kind of impression we should be putting out there. And who is responsible for giving us a good image? It's the government. The government must ensure that it does things in a way that we will not have that image which is out there abroad.
We do have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning. It's to the Power Breakfast. Okay. You can be part of the conversation by coming through on 0955-997-997 or 0961-690-487 or 0979-192-485. You can also go through to our social media platforms, which is Power FM Zambia, as we are currently live on social media as well. All right. Now, you did earlier on mention that maybe if there was somebody from the church to mediate and be part of the people that help to come to a common ground, would you say that the church has been sidelined in making certain important decisions when it comes to the governance that we are doing in Zambia, the governance, the type of governance that is being done in Zambia, and looking at the fact that a ministry does no longer exist, the national guidance and religious affairs. So what would you say is the way forward to now start involving the church in making these types of decisions?
I think that, again, it goes down to the government becoming sincere and genuine in the way they do things. Look at, for example, this technical committee that has been set up over the Constitution. The churches have said they were not consulted. It's not only the churches, political parties, opposition political parties were not consulted. And certainly political parties are major stakeholders in that issue. The church, we always talk about, the church is an important pillar of our society. So they're important stakeholders, but they were not consulted. In fact, they've said, no, stop this process. They're on record as saying that. Instead, what you have is, like with the Catholic Church, you have them being called Lucifers and so on. That is coming from the government. That is the kind of talk that they bring in. That doesn't bring about a situation where people can talk together. If you're calling I can't think of a worse name you can call, especially somebody of the cloth. I can't think of a worse name. Try thinking of a worse name you can call somebody of the cloth than saying that they are Lucifer. And then what kind of relationship are you building when you do that? You have to be sensitive. Remember earlier on I was saying this government lacks sensitivity. Those are basic things that they should know that they shouldn't do. The government claims, the president claimed after the Nawakwi funeral that we're going to dialogue with the opposition. I can let you know that there has been no effort at all, none at all, by the government to reach out and dialogue. To the contrary, we have written letters on various issues seeking the government's response, but they have been ignored. So there is no sincerity in this government. I challenge them to come and say, okay, we're setting up this dialogue for this date and so on at this venue. They will not, because they're not interested in doing that. All they want to do is to force whatever is in their minds and their wishes. That's not the way to govern. That is not the way to govern.
Okay. As we will be diverting a little bit to the constitutional issues, as someone trained in law, how do you assess Zambia's current legal framework? Are there structural reforms needed in the judiciary, constitution, as well as electoral laws?
There's certainly a lot that is needed to be done in terms of the constitution, and we need to do it properly. If we do a kindergarten approach like this government is doing towards constitutional reform, we will have something that is of no value, and probably something which will be very hurtful to our legal system. So the government should step back and stop these kindergarten games. Let us sit down and discuss exactly how we go about reforming our constitution so that everybody has got buy-in, so that it has legitimacy.
Wouldn't you say that they have been transparent enough when it comes to the constitution?
They haven't. They haven't. I laugh when you say that, because I was just telling you about how, boom, we're told, oh, there's this technical committee. Just boom, like that. Nobody knew about it. No, that's not transparency. That's not transparency at all. Yeah. So the furthest thing they have been is transparency. They're very far away from being transparent. Quite the opposite. In the dead of the night, they decide to set up a technical committee and spring it on everybody. That's not transparency.
Would you say that involved parties were consulted before that decision was made?
We were not consulted. We are an involved party.
Okay.
And when I say we are not just talking about D.O.P, I'm going to ask any of the other political parties. They were not consulted. The only ones who were consulted perhaps were MMD, those that are basically extensions of UPND. But ask any of the others if they were consulted. None of them were. Not even the ones who have got representation in Parliament. None were consulted.
Now, drawing back to Bill number 7, of course, that's a big issue that's being discussed. Would you say that you agree with that decision that's been made for it to be deferred or completely?
What I agree with is what the Constitutional Court said. The Constitutional Court said, this is dead in the water, it's a non-starter, start afresh. That's what the Constitutional Court said. Let us obey our own courts. So, should not be talking about deferred. No, it's dead in the water. The court has said so. So, go and engage the stakeholders. That's what the court said. They have not engaged the stakeholders. So they need to simply do the right thing. Stop these kindergarten games that they're doing. They've just got to stop these kindergarten games.
One of the prominent lawyers we have, a constitutional lawyer, did cite that it's now a failed state. Zambia is a failed state. What's your view?
I agree. I totally agree. Zambia is a failed state.
In what context would you say it's a failed state?
It's a failed state in that basic freedoms of Zambians are trampled upon. If you even just go on social media, it tells you the story. People, when there's something which has been posted, some story, they'll say things that, I would have talked, I would have commented, but I don't have a good lawyer. I'm sure you've seen that. That does not happen in a state which is free. That happens in a failed state where the people are afraid to even express themselves. It's a failed state in that you have somebody arrested for something. The so-called thing promoting tribalism and whatnot. Somebody's arrested. And if somebody goes and makes a report about somebody saying exactly the same things, maybe even worse, but so long as they are UPND, nothing is done.
So to cut you off, would you cite an example of that happening?
the southern province guy, and the other guy in the northwestern province. You know about that. You know about it as well. Everybody in Zambia knows about that. In fact, Mavonga and Zulu were responding to him. They said, if that is what he is saying, that they are saying, then even us, then this should be what is done. They are the ones, in fact, who caused people to start talking about this, but they are free as birds. Free as birds. But others are locked up. If you look at all these things which are done in terms of recruitment of people like nurses and so on, right now there's a big issue about, the people who were recruited are not even qualified. I'm sure you've even reported about that here. And then those people who are in the know say that, in fact, what happens is they are given lists to say, these are the ones you must employ. So they go through the process of advertising and so on, just to make people say, these people are transparent. They're in advertising. But what actually happens is the opposite. That's the only explanation as to how we have people who are not qualified being given those jobs. That is a sign of a failed state. You cannot say that that is a sign of a state which is okay. It's a sign of a failed state. You have a situation where most families cannot have 3 meals a day. That is a fact. That is a sign of a failed state. Recently you had them talking about, the GDP has gone up and so on and all that, beating their chests about it. But you know how GDP is formulated. It doesn't mean that is the distribution of the wealth. When you look at it, yes, there's more money that has been generated, but it's all going into very few pockets, the pockets of the people right at the top. The number of people living below the poverty line is increasing in Zambia, in spite of the fact that the GDP is going up. That is because of the uneven distribution which is there. Uneven distribution of wealth to such an extent is a sign of a failed state. You have a situation where if you want to get a contract with the government, you have to know somebody, be a relative to somebody in power before you get that. There's all that kind of nepotism. That's a sign of a failed state. I could go on. There is no doubt this is a failed state.
Once again, do keep in mind that this is Voice of the People. You can call us up. You can send us your messages as well. That is on 0955-997-997. But also you can do so on 0961-690-487. That's so you can send your text messages. But also on 0979-192-485. And we're having conversations that affect every single person within Zambia. And with us is Senior Counsel Sakwiba Sikota, who's one of Zambia's most respected lawyers and political figures. He's been at the center of national debates on governance, opposition unity, the rule of law, and remains quite a strong voice on issues shaping Zambia's democracy. So you too, if you'd like to add your voice to the conversation, you can do so by sending us a message, once again on 0961-690-487 or on 0979-192-485. We do have a message from Vic. And it says President Hichilemers took a week, I believe, to appoint a technical committee to consult the public about Bill 7, which must have been done in the first place. How long do you think the same consultation should take?
I think that what should happen is there should be consultation. The point I'm making is that there has been no consultation.
Okay,
He has not consulted.
We do have a caller. Hello, good morning. You're through to Voice of the People.
Hello, morning.
Good morning. Who are we speaking to today?
You're talking to Mr. Mambo.
Okay, Mr. Mambo, can you please reduce the volume on your TV set or your radio set? We can get some feedback.
All right. Council, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I trust you are as well.
I am, yes, sir. Now, listen, program. Integrating issues very well, sir. That's wish you all the best. Keep it up and continue giving the checks and balances. But what I'm not getting from your opposition is that you're not giving the real checks and balances. Like the issue we have brought up that this is a failed state. I disagree with you, Council. Failed state, I think it comes with more dictatorial tendencies, not this what was just elaborated there. Otherwise, I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling. Do stay tuned.
What's your view on his comment?
I think that a failed state is at various levels. Failed state is where the state fails to meet the basic needs of the people. Failed state, the basic needs could be social needs, could be economic needs, could be political needs. Failed state is where the safety of the people is at risk.
So would you say the safety of Zambians is at risk at the moment?
If you go into the various compounds and so on, you find that they have to get into their houses and beds before dark, before 19 hours, because their junkies will go all over the place and so on. So the security of the Zambian people is definitely at stake. They don't have that freedom of moving around freely. There's no doubt about that. So this failed on that. In terms of the needs, I talked earlier on about even failing to meet the basic meals per day that are required. A good number of people are not able to do that. So that's a failed state. I talked about, he's talked about dictatorial tendencies.
Sorry to cut you off short. We do have a call on the line. Hello, good morning. It's you to the Power Breakfast.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Who is on the line?
My name is Chanda.
All right, Chilanga, go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, so I want to contribute about our opposition, because at the moment what I can say to the State Council there is that we need like real solutions, not just about failed aid, stuff like that. Look at the power deficit that we have. We are going through a lot and it's not nice. Yeah, so we need like opposition that is going to tell us exactly how this can be sorted out, the economy, how it can be improved without basically concentrate on the government, like what they are not doing. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you very much for coming to. Before you just answer him, I do have a similar question that I would love to marry with his. So, in what areas, economy, governance, human rights, do you believe Zambia faces the greatest challenges, like he has earlier on alluded to, like right now, and how do you propose addressing them? So, maybe you can answer that question.
Thank you very much. I like the question from Mr. Chilambe, and it starts off from the premise that things are not right, and I agree with him. And so it comes back to when I said what UOP, UKA, and United Opposition is about ideas, demands, and solutions. It comes to the solutions part. And to put your mind at ease, we are looking at solutions, and we do have solutions. You talked about power, for example. Let me give a few examples of what could be done in terms of power. Right now, you have in Lusaka, let's take Lusaka, I think you've got about 3 or 4 huge sewer ponds, very, very huge. And there's a lot of methane gas, and I even feel sorry for the people who live near there. It's not a comfortable situation because of the methane gas which is there. But that methane gas can actually be turned into power. The gas itself, if what you do is you capture it rather than just let it float out into the air. And it's being done in some countries where the sewer ponds are also power generation places using the methane gas. That methane gas that we have in Lusaka could deal with the domestic power needs of Lusaka, or the entire domestic power needs of Lusaka. I'm not talking about the industrial, I'm talking about the domestic power needs of Lusaka. So that even, and it could be done cheaply, so that even those people who utilize charcoal here in Lusaka could be weaned off that. So that then there is also the added advantage of us saving our forests out there. That is one of the solutions that we have in mind, apart from, of course, things like solar and things like even the term using the water. There are power generation instruments, especially in places like India and so on, which are being used. You don't need to have a great big waterfall. But so long as you've got a flowing river, you can then capture and convert for villages and so on the power that is needed.
Does it still fall on the hydroelectric power?
It's hydroelectric, but it's not hydroelectric in terms of having to have a great big fall of water. Just the flow of the water turns small little turbines. And that is something which is not expensive, something which can be put up very quickly. Yes, it doesn't generate hundreds of megawatts of things, but if you're talking about like for small village homesteads and so on, that is something that can be done if they're close to rivers. Cut me, but so you can see, basically you can see that there are ideas that we do have. One of these days you should call me in so that we just talk about just ideas, just solutions, so that we have enough time. But believe me, there is so many things that we want to do. We are thinking outside the box.
All right. Hello, is you to the Power Breakfast.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Into.
I am speaking to Mutale.
All right, Mutale, go ahead with your comment or question.
Good morning, State Council.
Good morning.
I'll just invite your comment. One of your co-council, or is it your junior council, another State Council, John Sangwa, has decided to enter political fray. I would like to invite your comment on his decision, and if you are bringing him aboard UKA, or there have been discussions before he made his decision public. What is your comment on that, State Council?
Thank you very much for the question. Before I specifically talk about him, I want to talk about generally to all Zambians. All Zambians have got the right and freedom to participate in politics. In fact, I would go further and say not only do they have the right and freedom, they also even have the duty to do so. That is my view. Turning specifically to State Council John Sangwa, he is obviously answering to that duty that every Zambian has. And one of the things that unfortunately happens in Zambia is that too many people say, we'll see what the politicians will do and so on. This should be everybody's fight. Now, as to how he goes about it, that is what is going to be very, very important. I was with him on the Copper Belt about 2 months ago or so, and we did have a very brief discussion with regards to the state of the nation and so on, but we didn't have enough time. We were both passing through the Copper Belt at the time, and it was clear that he wants to be part of the solution to the depths of depravity we have fallen into in Zambia. And I actually encouraged him and I said, well, when you're ready, let's talk. Now that he has come out openly and everything, we will engage each other, of course, to see as to how we complement each other, how we can help each other. Because from the discussion I had, our view as to what is needed for Zambia is the same. So now we have to make sure that we're not trying to go and do the same thing for Zambians, but dilute it by going through different paths. Let us see how we can ensure that we don't waste our energies and resources, but we pool those energies and resources.
Maybe just quickly touch on the solutions of how we can deal with certain problems that we are currently facing. You did touch on the power issue. Maybe are there any challenges you feel we also need to tackle, come up with solutions as an opposition?
One of the things that we also must do is we have to prioritize meeting our demands before we start doing things like exporting and so forth. That is one of the reasons why Zambians are suffering. One wonders, why is there such a desire to export? Who are the people who are actually benefiting from us exporting this power? That needs to be seriously interrogated and put to an end. In terms of the economy, one of the things that we need to do as a solution is to stop looking at the mines as being what will save Zambia's economy, because the returns from the mines, whereas on paper they're very high, when you look at where are the returns going, they're not going to the Zambians. They're going to the same multinationals who are doing the mining, and being you even have people in India bragging about how they've built huge whatevers out of our minerals. You have people in Senegal saying the same about how they've built all these kind and flaunting what they've built, saying this is from Zambian gems. So we are not gaining from it. Yes, you may say, oh, there's going to be so many millions of tons which are exported. Right now we do have a lot of tons being exported, but we are not. What is the benefit we are getting? Very little. So yes, the GDP then grows because of that, but like I said, it doesn't reach the people at the bottom. It is just right at the very top and not the Zambian people. So I think that there are other areas that we should be concentrating on, which we could get faster returns on than the mining.
Okay.
For example, on the agriculture, we need to look at the agriculture really.
You can just speak into the mic.
We need to look at the agriculture really, really very seriously, and make sure that agriculture works. We've got a larger arable landmass than Ukraine. We've got more water available than Ukraine. We have got better weather than Ukraine. But Ukraine, before the war, was providing more than 1/3 of the grain of the world. And this is a country which is got less arable land than Zambia. If we put our mind to that, we would increase our economy much more. Apart from that, in terms of the number of people who would get employment, it would be much more than a similar investment in the mining. From the agriculture would actually get much more. So those are the kind of things that we need to start looking at. We need to ensure that we diversify our economy. And it's not just simply agricultural basic products. It is actually also food processing that we must look into. Go into our shops. You get yogurt. Most of the yogurt being sold here is from Zimbabwe. Don't tell me that we are not able, just simply yogurt, to make yogurt. My grandfather, my grandmother were making mavisi. Basically, that is yogurt. Now we have to import it. Yeah? We have, even in terms of the mines that we have, rather than exporting our emeralds and so on, don't allow unpolished and processed emeralds be sent out. Set up lapidaries and so on here in Zambia, so that you are enhancing the value of that, and you are even able then to monitor exactly what is going out. Okay, I'll carry on when we have another opportunity to, because there's so much. Believe me, in terms of solutions, there's so much that is there.
Well, thank you very much. Due to time, maybe we will definitely schedule up another conversation that we'll have on the Power Breakfast. We do appreciate you coming, Mr. Sakwiba Sikota.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And all I can say to the Zambian people is, don't worry. There are people who have got the right heart and who have the solutions for Zambia. And we shall take Zambia to a much greater place.
Okay. Thank you once more.
Thank you.
We were joined in the studio by State Council Sakwiba Sikota, United Liberal Party President, one of Zambia's most respected lawyers and political figures. You can go through to our socials, which is Power FM Zambia, and be part of the conversation, or you can tune in to Dstv audio channel 914 or Gotv audio channel 304. Power Breakfast. Let's continue. This has been Voice of the People.
The views